Tell us your name and where you work with.
My name is Mpho Raboyane. I'm from South Africa. I work with an organization called Ndifunukwazi.
Okay. Can you tell us, what does your movement or what does your organization do?
So our organization is an activist organization, but it's also a law center. So what we try to do is to support movements and communities who have struggled to reconstitute themselves on land, basically reclaiming and self-redistributing land, housing themselves, and taking up city building occupations. What that means is we need to do advocacy work to ensure that the state understands the people's plight, but also works to release well-located land for affordable housing. We advocate for equitable access to land, making sure that no one is left behind, particularly Black people who have been systemically left out and pushed out of valuable land. And finally, we work towards racial and economic justice, and we believe the easiest way to do that is through access to land.
Can you tell us, you mentioned so many things that are terrifyingly similar to occupied Turtle Island, right? But can you tell us just a little bit about how many folks are struggling just to be housed in
Sure.
where you're in Cape Town and other
Sure.
places?
In South Africa, if we're going to use the metric of the state, people who have registered on the housing waiting list are over 2.1, 2.5 million. In the city where I'm from, which has a population of about 4 million, registered people waiting for housing is in excess of 360,000 people. And that doesn't necessarily include people who have occupied land. So informal settlements, I think, are numbering over 3,000. But that doesn't constitute as properly housed because most of the land that's on don't belong to the people. And also, if it's not state land, it's private land, meaning it's subject to summary evictions at any time.
Wow. And how many folks within those numbers or even externally would you consider are houseless? And a shout out to our relatives, Abalali, because we throw down with them. But
Yeah. So
or
I
landless.
struggle with this question a lot because
It's
I
different.
think we have our own definition of unhoused,
Right.
but the fact of the matter is, if you don't own property, you are landless.
Ashe.
And that is the majority in South Africa. 73% of the land is still in white hands. The rest belongs to the state. So that just goes to show that the project of the colonialists and apartheid is still successful till today. Black people do not have the land, never mind a house.
Thank you.
So being unhoused, again, if we're going to use a researcher's metric, in the city of Cape Town alone, this was now pre-pandemic, they were able to count about 14,000. But I think there is a very important disclaimer there that not everyone could be reached in that study. So I strongly believe it's exponentially more.
Can I move really quick outside? I wanted to ask you what one example of a fight for land recently was.
So in the Cape Town, can I give you two?
Go for it.
In the Cape Town context, a community had recently occupied two buildings, right? State-owned buildings. There is a very well-located, meaning that it's in the center of capital, it's in the center of development, but abandoned by the state, hadn't been used for decades. And this is the Woodstock Hospital, which is in the middle of a fastly gentrifying area, as well as the Helen Bowden Nursing's Home, which is opposite the V&A waterfront, i.e. the most sought-after address in Cape Town. And these people from the Reclaim the City movement occupied those two houses, initially in protest against the state, which kept, going back on its stated promise to release well-located land for affordable housing. So again, the decision was, if the state can't do it, then we have to house ourselves. That protest then turned into a material need. People were, in effect, then just housing each other and housing themselves. But what we've seen grow out of those occupations is communities steeped in the politics of care, communities steeped in the practice of matriarchal leadership. Because thinking about it, a woman's relationship to land has always been a generative force. She has always been charged with the cultivation of land. She has always been charged with reproduction in the land and through the land. She has always been charged with building community, which is essentially what the project of these occupations has become. We haven't built occupied houses. We've built communities that know each other, that care for each other. This is very similar to what you were sharing, right? About the various communities that you've supported, from Echo Park to, is it Athena? Yeah. So those resonated a lot, because that is our lived reality. And I think the commonality there is that because we are the non-humans, the non-rights holders, the unseen, the riffraff that capital prefers to sweep away in the oblivion of a waiting list. Because we share that invisibility, we are so much more able to see each other.
Ashe. Thank you so much. I love you.
Thank you.